Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the European Crossover webinar. And let's go and take a look where the euro's at. Sheesh, at 22.43. That's that area that we were looking at for resistance. Bear with me. Those are those touches we were looking at, and we have a high today of 22.43, and I think our resistance was 22.42. But yeah, although we're looking for this to potentially move even higher at this point, but yeah, look at that move. Holy smokes. And take a look at the cash dollar index. New lows here, and take a look at the Aussie dollar. Yeah, showing this. Look at this on the weekly. I didn't even realize this. I had this from before. Had been just looking at the daily, and when we're pushing higher, I said, "Well, let me look at here we were," and I said, "Well, let me take a look at the weekly," and I forgot that I actually had posted this, or not posted, worked on it back in September, and look where we're at. 76.39 is 38%. And taking a look at where we are with equities. Irene is saying to take a look at Tesla today. We will. Let's go and move into the equities. We've already had a pretty good move. That's my alarm. Hang on, bear with me. Let me go in and take this off. And boy, what a run this has been. Look at this. I think you can take a look at this right here. Maybe 127% extension, but that would even still be a ways to go if we went off of that. And you see, we still have further to go. 12,800 before we got to the 127% extension. It's been one heck of a move already. Look at that. So we'll just take a look at the news. Australian New Zealand dollars hit fresh highs. Economies outperform. Australian New Zealand dollars hit fresh multi-year peaks on Thursday as strong data underlined the outperformance of their domestic economies and likely diminished need for yet more policy easing. The Aussie was up at 75.84 after having stretched as far as 75.91. That was the highest since June of 2018. Aussie employment gain blew past forecasts with a rise of 90,000 in November, driving the jobless rate down to 6.8%, when analysts had looked for 7%. The rapid recovery was welcomed by Treasury John Friedberg as he outlined the multi-year fiscal review that nudged up forecasts for economic growth and trimmed the government record budget deficit. It also pleased the Federal Reserve Bank of Australia, which declared dealing with unemployment a national priority when it cut rates to record lows in November. Yet, if unemployment continues to fall at this pace, the RBA might have to reconsider its commitment to not hike rates for 3 more years and to hold the 3-year yields at 0.1% at some stage in the future. As the labor market continues to tighten, the RBA board will no longer continue to say that the cash rate is on hold for the 3 year, said Gareth Aird. They'll need to either remove the yield target or lift the target. At this rate, we think that could happen by the middle of 2021. The Kiwi dollar also on a roll, climbing to the highest since April 2018 at 71.30. Resistance lies around 71.50, with the next major target being 73.95. Wow. Michael Gordon, a senior economist at Westpac, noted the result could move the dial on how much the fiscal and monetary stimulus was needed. And the dollar drops as progress on U.S. stimulus and Brexit deals sour safety bid. The dollar set 2.5-year lows against the major peers, including the British pound and euro on Thursday, as progress towards agreeing on a U.S. stimulus package and Brexit deal boosted risk appetite at the expense of the safest assets. Congressional negotiators were closing in on the $900 billion COVID bill, and lawmakers said on Wednesday, with the tone most positive it's been in months. Across the Atlantic, the European Union chiefs said a deal with the UK was near, although success wasn't guaranteed. The dollar index sank as low as 89.97. Federal Reserve Wednesday vowed to keep funneling cash into financial markets until the U.S. economy recovery is secure. As long as U.S. long-term yields stay very low, the dollar will be weaker. And that's it there. And the U.S. calls Switzerland and Vietnam currency manipulators and a Trump trade shot. Let's see, there's no news there. Hold on. Nah, we can just go move into the analysis now. Let me just open up the so looking at the euro dollar, which, holy smokes, look at that, 22.34. The euro closed at new highs on FOMC day. Immediate potential move is to 22.84, with resistance at 22.42. Support will be at 21.52. So that's what we have, 22.42, which is where we're looking. Remember, that was our secondary one, and we've already made it there with a high of 22.43. So and support at 21.52. On to cable. Same thing with the weekly chart there. Cable closed above 35. Potential move is just 35.94. That's where we're at, with immediate resistance at 35.54. So 35, looking at 35.94. We're actually as high as we're on the highs right now, and that is 35.80. So we're looking for 35.94. You can see it on the weekly chart right there. You can see that touching here. So 35.94 it is. And 34.62 for support. Onto the Aussie dollar. And in all these, we're looking at weekly charts. The Aussie closed at a new high, resistance at 75.96 with a potential move to 76.39, which is the 38% of 55 to 79 107.95. Support will be 75.35. And 76.39, 38%. On to the Kiwi. The Kiwi remains in a tight range. Resistance remains 71.05 with upper support at 70.15. But look, we've even blown past this. So at this point, let's take a look here at the weekly. And the lower wick was right here at 71.48 with the bottoms of these wicks coming in right there, which is 71.92. Let's see. Yeah. There's a secondary wick, 71.84. Take a look at the daily. Resistance would be, support would be right there. 70.80. Actually, just right at this bar now where we're at. And high bar, 70.98. Onto the dollar CAD. Dollar CAD closed at another new low. Support will be 27 even. Well, that's where we're at right now, with resistance at 27.97. I know I had this here. There's the 26. Let's take a look. No, it is lower than that. Yeah, because 26.86 we had 26.67. I believe that's a monthly level. And on the upside, let's go and look on the daily 2 hour. For right now, it's 27.60. On to the dollar peso. The dollar peso took out support at 18.82. Support now will be I meant to say 1982. Support now will be 1976 with resistance at 1989. I don't know why I was putting 18. And on to the peso. Dollar yen closed just below support on FOMC day. Immediate support will be 318 with a potential move to 286. Resistance will be 375. So on dollar yen, already had this pretty low. Well, we'll stick with what we had, which is 318, but there's a potential move to 286. And resistance at 375. And on to the cash dollar index. The dollar index closed on support on FOMC day. Support on Thursday will be 89.72 with resistance at 90.64. On to the Kiwi yen. No changes here in the Kiwi yen. It'll be still 73, well, 73.77. We're actually just above that right now, but I'll stick with that. And the 73.08. So I'm going to keep it where it stands right now. It is stronger, but no changes there. And then on to the euro pound. We're pressing the low side now here. How much further they can move? Right there would be, you see here at this level and here. That put us right there at 89.91. And resistance 90.56. And onto the Euro Kiwi. Same thing, we're starting to slide here. Further resistance is going to come. Support's going to come at these wicks here, which is going to be 70.55. And resistance 71.50. And onto the Aussie yen. New highs here, but it's, the resistance is going to be just that high that was posted, which is 78.75. And support is going to be that lower wick, which is 78.09. On to the guppy. Pushing higher here. Same thing here is just going to be the top of these wicks. And that'll put us right there at 40.29. And support's just going to be just below this bar here. It's going to be the bottom, that body right there, which would be 39.56. And lastly, sterling odd. Already had a pretty good run here yesterday. Resistance is going to simply be the high yesterday, which is 79.02. And support will look coming across these just below that level, coming across these bodies right there. And that comes in at 77.49. And take a look at the euro. Well, it looks like we took a pause up there at that 22. We had 22.42 yesterday. It looks like the high was 22.43, so pretty close. Made a little pause here. And Amir said to take a look at platinum. Oh, and I just saw Mark's who said you were still on the NASI screen. So sorry about that. Here's the euro here, and we made it up. Here's the high is 22.43. Now looking at the bias chart, we did make it up here to this 22.42. That was our resistance from yesterday. We actually had 22. I think it's 22.17/42. So we can come up as high as 22.42. We take a look at that on the weekly chart. We have a potential move up here to 22.84. You can see that. More importantly, as I told you about the Aussie dollar, this is pretty key. I didn't even realize that I had this chart until I was looking at Asia, and I decided to look on the weekly and pull up the weekly chart here, because you can switch to daily, weekly, whatever. So, of course, I've been looking on the daily. I switched it over, not only pulled up the weekly, but I said, well, let me see if I have something on the weekly. And certainly I had from last September. I had marked these levels, and look, 75.96 and also 76.39 is at 38%. So we may see a little bit of a pause in here. That's from 55 cents all the way up to 107.95. And then take a look at the cable real quick. Also looking at the weekly, you can see we had our analysis is for a reach to 35.94, and we're just about there. You can see that 35.77. Amira wanted to take a look at that at the platinum screen, or platinum, I should say. Platinum's looking pretty solid, and you can go on and see why. Let's go and move to the daily, because after the Fed said, "Hey, look, we'll keep the rates still low," and you can see the economy, continue to go on and move forward, it's giving up that extra boost. So here we are. We've had a pretty good run already. You can see here how we came down here to that dip to the lows. We're able to go and hold there, and we kept the move higher. The key actually right now is going to be this close right there, 1,070. So we've already had a pretty good move already. I'd be wary if you make a good run up here towards 1,070 fairly long. You might want to tighten up stops, but that's where we stand here on platinum. And I already said to go and take a look at Tesla. Well, Tesla's something else, because here it is on the weekly, and look where we're at. The key is going to be if we do close below 611, that's going to open the door for us to move lower. But you can see here we had a hammer, Then we had look at this medium-legged doji on the weekly, but we still pushed higher. But we have I won't say an artificial event, but we have fundamental event, which is the inclusion of the S&P. But looking here on the daily, it has been run out of gas up in here. You can see here. And right now, on a short-term basis, we'll probably want to look at a 2-hour chart. Yeah, this 640 seems to be kind of like a pivot area. You could it actually would end up lowering this to about there, right there. You see, it's basically right at 640. That's the key. We've already had a pretty little slide here. Here's some support here, and that's actually working as a resistance now. You see right there, that body. See the market comes back to it and rotates lower. So immediate resistance is right now 627. So with 640. So really, if you were short, if you put on a short right now, you would want it to establish a move above 627 and hold. We could come back up there, but you wouldn't want that. But if not, then your resistance would be, so it's going to be 627 and 640 right there. And you can see the others, Apple still a little bit higher. We've talked about that 129. Look at Microsoft busting away here. Another strong move. Amazon still up very well, up in the stars, and Facebook has rebounded from that 275. I mentioned that in the afternoon session. I said, hey, you don't want Facebook to get below 275. They tagged it and then they rebounded up from there. And Nvidia, not all that much stronger. You see Google not doing anything, but and then if you take a look at Tesla, that's doing not Tesla. Netflix is still doing relatively well. You can see. Okay, President Macron tested positive for coronavirus, and Netflix, you can see here, still pretty strong up here. Mark says if you can take a look at the Dow, let me take a look here. I almost forgot. So take a look at it. Weekly. We're still holding up pretty well here. Look at the daily. Right now the resistance is 30.26, or if you say 32.60, and look at it on a 2-hour chart. Yeah, it's actually 32.73 will be resistance right there, which is that body right there, 32.73 resistance. But that's about it. It's just holding up relatively well. It's stretched like the others are. We'll see how we close out. And we know that Tesla will be in the inclusion into the S&P, rebouncing on the 2000 on the 18th, so which will be tomorrow. So that's all we have here. But thanks for joining us in the European crossover webinar, and we'll get the bias chart posted. Thanks.